Hello everybody, my name's Aaron and welcome to the 5 Red Lights.
1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's go, 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 go!
Welcome to part 2 of my French Grand Prix preview. Now today we're going to be taking a look at some of my favourite French Grand Prix from years gone by, and I'll be sharing with you my predictions for the Grand Prix this weekend. But first of all, a little bit of news that has come out since I recorded the first part of my preview. Esteban Ocon has signed a 3-year deal with Alpine. Now, ahead of the season, you can go and have a look at this on the channel. I predicted that Alpine would retain Esteban Ocon for 2022 and beyond. But have a look at who I have put as his partner there. You might be a touch surprised. But that's really good news for Esteban. He's driven really well this year. He's outperformed Fernando, even though Fernando bagged the 6th place in Azerbaijan to, I think, leap ahead of him in the championship standings. But Ocon has outqualified Fernando and outraced him several times this season. It's just an unfortunate DNF that has put him behind his teammate in the championship standings. But obviously, there was rumours about him potentially taking the 2nd seat at Mercedes for 2022. Alpine have moved swiftly to tie him up and keep him as pretty much a linchpin for their organisation moving forward, because Fernando's not the guy who's going to take them forward in the coming years to win world championships. If they produce a winning car, Esteban could be that guy, or it could be the guy that I think they're going to put next to him in 2022. I won't spoil that. You have to go and check out the video. I'll leave a link to it up here. So let's dive in with some of my favourite French Grand Prix, and we're going to start way back in 1979, much before I was even born, and we're looking at the classic battle at Dijon between Gilles Villeneuve and René Arnoux. An unbelievable battle in the final laps of the race that year. Arguably the greatest ever duel in Formula 1 history. They bang wheels and they change position an incredible 5 times in just 3 laps. And they're off the track and Villeneuve is locking up. It's just sensational. My words can't do it justice, so here is a short video to just go and enjoy it. The action is sensational. Murray Walker is commentating, the great Murray Walker, and he can say it a lot better than I can.
That they can pass, and Arnoux's going to do it. René Arnoux is challenging for 2nd as they come up to Villeroy, but Villeneuve will not give way. Arnoux's got the inside line and the shorter line, and he takes 2nd place as they go into the right-hander and the left at Sablière, with René Arnoux 2nd and Villeneuve go. Incredible! Villeneuve stood on everything, locked up his tyres, got the line, and he's back into 2nd position on the last lap but one, and the French crowd aren't very happy about that, and who can blame them? Down to La Bretagne, 2 arrows. And Arnoux does it, does he? And Villeneuve locks up. And Villeneuve has had to go wide, and Arnoux's on the inside as they go round Villeroy. He's got the shorter line, he's got 2nd position. He's got 2nd position, he's through, they bang wheels. He's off, and he's back again. René Arnoux off the circuit and back again, and now Villeneuve's in 2nd position, and this is the last lap. And Villeneuve goes over the corrugations and he nearly loses the front as they go up to Parabolique on the 80th and last lap. And he's back, he's in 2nd position. Villeneuve is 2nd in the Ferrari. Down to 3rd position goes Arnoux. 80th lap in this 80-lap race, and there's less than a third of it to go. Now, can Arnoux, on the tremendously fast La Combe Courbe de Pouar section, 150 miles an hour, get past? They go past Jochen Mass and Jabouille wins. Jean-Pierre Jabouille has won in the Renault. Who is going to be 2nd? Villeneuve is at the moment. Arnoux is in 3rd position. Into the Courbe de Pouar they come. There is Riccardo Patrese, and Villeneuve is 2nd. Arnoux is 3rd.
So we move forward to 1989 for the next selection in my favourite French Grand Prix, and it's actually a race at Paul Ricard where we're racing this weekend, and this is famous for Mauricio Gugelmin rolling the march at the start. Now he locks up his brakes, he just brakes way too late, and he somersaults over the back of, I think it might be Gerhard Berger, and then he wipes out Nigel Mansell's rear wing, and everyone gets a nice shot of the underneath of the march. And I think later I think they became Leighton House, and I think they already had Adrian Newey on board, and they took some pictures of the bottom of the car, and obviously it was quite inventive from Adrian back then, even in the late 80s. So a few people took some ideas from him. So at the restart, obviously the race had to be red flagged. Ayrton Senna, who had pole position and had initially led into turn 1, suffered a differential failure which left his teammate Alain Prost on home soil to lead every lap on his way to a commanding victory. Riccardo Patrese in the Williams and Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari were battling over second, and it was Mansell who forced the mistake from the Italian driver to take the second place on the day. My next choice is the 1999 French Grand Prix. Okay, there's a bit of a pattern here. If it's in France and it ends in a 9, it seems to be on my list. But it's just the way it's worked out. This was an absolutely incredible race. I think it was the first French Grand Prix I ever watched, and it was just unbelievable. Qualifying was held in rainy/mixed conditions, and Rubens Barrichello took the pole position for Stewart. And the championship contenders of Hakkinen and Schumacher found themselves in 6th, and Hakkinen found himself in 14th. David Coulthard was the highest placed regular front runner in 4th place, and he took the lead in the early stages from Barrichello, having moved his way past the Prost of Olivier Panis and the Sauber of Jean Alesi. But as it was often the case that season, DC ran into some technical issues, and then all hell broke loose. You had Hakkinen and Frentzen coming through the field. Schumacher was struggling. Hakkinen spun, trying to pass the Stewart of Barrichello for the lead. He fell down the order. Frentzen kept going, but he ran into a gear selection issue halfway through the race. Schumacher took the lead while everyone else was having their dramas. Then he ran into steering wheel problems and lost a load of pace. And in the end, we had pouring rain, 15 laps or something under safety car, and Jordan rolled the dice with Frentzen, and they gambled on filling the tank right up, the safety car staying out a long time, and while everyone else had to dive into the pits late on, so Hakkinen and Barrichello, who were by this time the leading pair, they dived into the pits for some extra tyres and fuel, and Frentzen sailed on through into the lead and eventual victory. Even on fresh tyres, Hakkinen couldn't chase down the Jordan. And that was the first win that year for Jordan, and it really kick-started Frentzen's challenge for the World Championship that year. An unbelievable race. Go and check it out on F1 TV, because if you want a race that's going to keep you guessing all the way through, that is one that'll do it for you. And my final selection is a year later, again in Manicourt, and David Coulthard. As a young boy, he was my favourite driver in the McLaren, the black and silver McLaren Mercedes, and watching him get one over on Michael Schumacher was fantastic for me. It was a big battle. They qualified on the front row together. They were the two form guys at the time that year. Hakkinen had been a little bit out of sorts in the first half of 2000 as a double defending champion, and even though Barrichello chopped across Coulthard at the start and got the jump on him into P2, DC dispatched the second Ferrari, went after Schumacher, and he was just in the zone. And he's described this as his greatest race. And it's easy to see why, because he was just on fire. He was absolutely on it. And he sent it down the inside. And he sent it down the outside initially. And Schumacher forced him off, not quite off the road, well onto the curb, pushing the boundaries of what's fair. And DC gave him a warning of sorts, which translated to don't do that again. Obviously, go and check it out on F1 TV again for full clarification on what DC is actually saying to Schumacher. But a couple of laps later, DC gets it down the inside and gives Schumacher a taste of his own medicine, runs him out wide, very close actually to making contact and taking the pair of them off. But he gets away with it, and he goes on to take a magnificent victory. So they're my 4 choices of my favourite French Grand Prix. Unfortunately, none since the year 2000. We haven't had many there. Well, we had Manicourt up until 2008. But there wasn't that many great races there. It wasn't the best for overtaking in that era. And unfortunately, Paul Ricard is yet to serve up anything substantial in terms of quality racing entertainment. But let me know in the comments your favourite French Grand Prix. Is it one that I've chosen, or is there one that I've missed out? Maybe one that I've forgotten about completely. But let me know in the comments. I want to hear your favourite French Grand Prix. Let's dive on into some predictions for this weekend. And let's start with qualifying. Let's start with pole position, and I'm going for... Hang on. There we go. Lewis Hamilton. He's going to return to form with a pole position in Paul Ricard, which will be his third consecutive there if he goes on to achieve it. Now, I think Mercedes will be back on form this weekend. It's going to be a track that suits them a little bit better. Red Bull will be right on their tails, I think. But I think Lewis will just have the edge. He's gone well at Paul Ricard the 2 times that they've raced there. And I wouldn't say he's due a good result, because pretty much all the time Lewis bags a good result. But Monaco didn't go so well for him. And obviously there was the mistake at the restart in Baku. So he's kind of due. And in second place on the grid, Max Verstappen. It's going to be super close between these two. I reckon there'll be less than a tenth of a second in it in qualifying, and they really are the class of the field this year, in the best cars, of course. I think there are other drivers who are performing really well too. Obviously Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, who are standing out. Carlos Sainz as well has been excellent for me, but these two are just a bit ahead of everybody else in terms of their performance level, coupled with their machinery that they can use. So they're going to lock out the front row as championship contenders. But who's going to be in third place? Will it be Sergio? Will it be Valtteri? I've gone for Lando Norris. Lando is one of those who has been performing above expectation for this year, but I wouldn't say he's performing over his ability. I think we maybe didn't quite see Lando having this much speed at this point in his career. But he's come out of the blocks brilliantly. He's showing Daniel a clean pair of heels at pretty much every turn. I think he's only been beaten by him once this season in a race. And he is McLaren's leading light at the moment. And I think he's going to be back on form in Paul Ricard and bagging at least a top 5 grid spot, because it's going to suit the McLaren a little bit better than the Ferrari, I think. But I think P3 is definitely a possibility for him, given that Sergio and Valtteri have had struggles this season. Sergio, I don't think, will be quite so close to Max on pace, in qualifying at least. And, who knows which version of Valtteri Bottas is going to turn up. I mean, which version are we on now? I mean, let's hope he has his porridge and his coffees, and his plane doesn't go technical on him this week, so that we get the right Valtteri Bottas to enter the fight. But I still think Lando's going to have just enough to grab third on the grid. Let's move on to the race, and my winner is Lewis Hamilton. Now, it's not impossible to overtake a Paul Ricard, but the way these cars are set up with the big wings and the aero requirements and necessities, it's not going to be easy, especially for Max to get through. There's the DRS down the Mistral straight into the chicane, but I think the Mercedes has enough of a straight line speed capacity to fend off the Red Bull. And then the rest of the lap is really long corners and not massive braking zones. So it's quite tricky in the first sector and the final sector to actually affect a pass. You've got to keep it smooth through there and be ready to attack on the Mistral straight with the DRS. And we've seen DRS can be quite powerful this year with the big rear wings. So that being said, Lewis is my winner, and he's going to win from Max Verstappen. It's going to be a titanic scrap, and I think Lewis will just come out on top and snatch back the championship lead. I can actually see Max getting the fastest lap courtesy of the DRS, so Lewis will only gain 6 points on Max, which would leave his title lead. If this happens, of course, anything can happen in Formula 1, usually does. So if this scenario happens, Lewis would take a 2-point lead to Austria the following week, which would set the title battle up brilliantly for a doubleheader in Spielberg. But third place, I've gone for Sergio Perez. Race day is Sergio's day. He's never really been a spectacular qualifier, even though he did get the better of Jenson Button in his McLaren year. He's not going to beat Max unless Max has a technical difficulty this weekend, but he'll be there or thereabouts in the race. Will he be able to come into the contention of race winning? Not convinced on that, even though he'll be riding high from his victory in Baku. But I think a podium is definitely on the cards for Sergio now that he's got a handle on the Red Bull. I think he'll beat Valtteri to that third spot on the podium. Where will Lando Norris end up? I think he'll drop back a little bit, maybe 4th or 5th. He'll be looking over his shoulder at Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz in the Ferraris. Where is Daniel Ricciardo going to end up? Not so sure. It's a track that hopefully he finally figures out the McLaren and can go well. But that is my top 3 for the race. Lewis Hamilton winning from the 2 Red Bulls of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. And lastly, we're going to have a bold prediction of 3 or more DNFs. And unfortunately, I've got a picture of Esteban Ocon's Alpine being wheeled into the garage at Baku. Let's hope they don't have a repeat of that. It'd be doubly disappointing if they did, because it's the team on home soil and the driver on home soil. And hopefully we won't have a repeat of 2018 where Ocon and Gasly wiped each other out in the first lap of their home race. So there are my predictions. Chuck yours in the comments alongside your favourite French Grand Prix. So that's the end of my French Grand Prix preview. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Chuck your comments in the comments section down below. And of course, follow me on Twitter, 5_red_lights, and on Instagram, 5redlights. Remember, kind is king. Show that kindness all through the weekend, guys. And let's try to enjoy the French Grand Prix around Paul Ricard. Thanks for watching. My name's Aaron. This has been the 5 Red Lights. When the 5 Red Lights go out at Paul Ricard, I will see you next time. Bye for now.